RLCraft, the hardest mod pack inside of Minecraft. Most people pray they can survive long enough to kill the Ender Dragon in this insane pack. We aren't looking for that kind of glory. We want everything. We will be taking on the hardest bosses and be prepared with the best loot in the game. We will bring RLCraft to its knees in these 100 days. It will rue the day we spawn into the world. Let's begin. Day 1. I spawned between 3 of the biggest dungeons inside of the game. I knew I needed to take full advantage of this, so I quickly began gathering basic materials and tools to take on these towers. I looted the chest in one of the dungeons and I began killing innocent creatures around for XP and for their food. I then created a basic tool set and began plotting how I was going to take on these dungeons. I ended off day 1 by destroying this house and building a shield. Shields are essential at the beginning of RLCraft. These things can spawn when you decide to kill peaceful animals, and they'll absolutely wreck you if they hit you in the head. So a shield is really important. Day 2. I knew if I wanted to push the limits of this game, I needed to progress very fast in the early stages. So I immediately started hunting for chickens so I can make avian treats and get a rock and start looting these towers. Lucky for me, there was a broken down tower near this. Now, the best thing about these towers are that there are so many holes in them that the sun gets through, and the spawners generally do not spawn the mobs unless they're creeper spawners. This means you can literally walk up and destroy every spawner. And I got a mad amount of levels from this. This was just the perfect spawn altogether. I then crafted a saddle in preparation for getting a rock that night. Almost as soon as my chicken had done smelting, a rock came and I tamed them right away, and it only took 2 treats, which was awesome because sometimes they can take up to 8 treats and it gets really annoying to try and tame them when that happens. I started out day 3 by looting the 2 towers that were next to my spawn. They had amazing loot in them. While I was looting the towers, I basically took all the loot out of the chests. I know I didn't exactly need 7 different balloons, but I figured I could sort it out at the end, and for now I just should grab everything. I went to the tower that I had previously killed all the spawners in to sort out the loot that I'd gotten. This is absolutely mad loot to have on day 3. I not only was able to level up my defense to wear diamond armor, but I actually had diamond armor to wear. This was absolutely insane. Day 4. I started out the day by raiding a mansion and getting some epic enchanted books from there and making an atlas so I could try and track at least where I'd gone now so I didn't keep going over the same terrain again and again. I spent some more time looting and then created a soul stone so I could get my rock permanently. When you tame a rock or any sort of mob within the game, you need to then a soul stone it to bind it to you so that you can then respawn it later. To create a soul stone, it's pretty simple. You just need some bones and some gold and some diamonds and some emeralds. But I needed to loot a couple more towers to get those supplies so that I can make him mine forever. I found this massive farm near a base I wanted to make, so I decided to go in and try and loot it, but all there was really in there was some food and some crops, and it wasn't really worth looting, but I did destroy all the wheat for the experience points it would give me. Day 5. It wasn't too eventful. I mainly flew around just collecting a bit more supplies. I started out by looting this camp. It generally doesn't have the greatest stuff in it, but sometimes it has some golden apples, and I knew I was going to be fighting a dragon soon because I wanted to get dragon armor before I could take on more towers, so I knew golden apples were going to be essential. While flying around, I stumbled upon one of these villages. It's great in the early game if you grab all the wood from these little markets they have there, because then you never have to mine any trees. Farming in RLCraft is really annoying because the trees barely give anything, and without efficiency 5, it's just tedious as heck. So I definitely advise going to one of these villages in the early game, collecting all these stacks of wood, and then you basically don't have to collect any wood for the entire game. Day 6. This was the day I wanted to kill my first dragon, but to do so I needed some more arrows and I needed a few more golden apples just to be on the safe side, so I looted a couple more towers and then I began prepping to fight the dragon. I put a power 4 book that I had found on a basic bow. I put it on there because I knew I could take it off later with a disenchantment table if I actually wanted it, so I knew it didn't really matter that I was putting it on a sucky bow, and then I prepared to fight the dragon. With bow in hand, I walked out of my front door, and there he was, floating right above it, as he has his base right next to mine, so I decided to start pelting him with arrows. The only issue was my arrows weren't hitting him because he was too high up. This was a battle of the ages. When I say battle of the ages, I mean it took ages, because he was too high up, and then I had to make him come down, and it took forever, but finally he came down, and I finished him off to close out day 6. Day 7. I started out the day going out to harvest the dragon, but then I realized that I wanted some of his blood before I harvested him. The way Ice and Fire works is if you take a bottle and right-click it on the dragon, you'll get fire blood, With that, you can craft different elements in the game, but he needs to still have his scales on him when you go and take some of his blood, and he's going to give you less scales when you do so. So I went and smelted some sand to get some bottles, and then I came back and got some of his blood, and then I absolutely obliterated his corpse, taking all of his items so I can make some armor, and so I can make some tools later. I then went back inside, sorted some of my items away, and began creating a new armor set. The first mansion that we had went to had 2 mending books inside of one of the chests, so I made sure to put it on the chest plate and the helmet right away. Make sure to always put mending enchants as your first enchant. This way, if you decide to switch armor later, you can take it off in a disenchantment table, and you won't lose it. I couldn't actually wear the dragon armor because my defense wasn't high enough yet, so I went looting more to get some more XP so I could actually wear it. Day 8. I was still looking for enough experience to wear my dragon armor. I found this house with a bunch of dangerous spawners in it. I thought the best idea was to just walk inside. We did get a lot of experience, so that's a good thing. We were able to cheese the upstairs. The nice thing about the saber is it actually has a bit of range on it, so when you're fighting things like wither skeletons that actually have to touch you to wither you, it's nice because if you click fast enough, it'll actually do enough damage and keep them at bay to where they can't actually hit you. Later in the day, some random mermaids started singing to me, and for some reason my character was so madly in love that he decided to go towards them. Well, a sea serpent was there waiting to eat me. I barely escaped from that sea serpent, and then he started doing 360 flips in the air. Not exactly sure what his deal was, nor do I have any idea how he can jump that high. Day 9. While I was flying around, still looking for enough experience to wear the dragon armor, I spotted this massive village. I've always wanted to live in one of these villages. The problem is there's just too many mobs, and it's too hard to light up the entire thing. I love the idea of it, but it just isn't practical in RLCraft. I spent the rest of day 9 looting battle towers, just getting that extra experience points, just so I could finally wear that dragon armor. It's really important that I can put on that dragon armor, because then I can start going for way harder dungeons. At the end of day 9, we finally have enough experience points to actually wear the dragon armor. Now it was time to take it a step up and start absolutely wrecking this game. Day 10. I started off the day by recalling home and compiling all the resources that I had gotten. Here was my main issue. If I wanted to tackle one of those bigger dungeons, dragon armor was obviously essential, but I needed a few more hearts on my head and on my body, so I didn't get one shot. I knew I could use water bucket tricks and different block tricks to keep the mobs away from me, but what I really needed to do was to go for one of these endgame towers so I could get heart shards so I could make hearts a lot quicker, but it was an incredibly risky play to do that this early, so I got a couple more experience points, but I was getting ready to tackle one of those towers. Day 11. I began the day by choosing a skill class so I could get a little bit more XP from what I was doing. I chose the combat skill class simply because mainly I gain XP by killing mobs, so combat made the most sense for me. I attempted to take on one of these towers trying to use an iron pickaxe. The problem with this is that they're encased in obsidian. I thought I could get through, but the Vexes kept throwing me around, so I decided to forgo the idea until I had a diamond pickaxe. I went out looting a bit more, found this archery tower, and just grabbed the arrows from it on my way. I didn't have an infinity bow yet, so arrows are really useful. While I was flying around, I found another one of these big dungeons. I couldn't loot it yet, but I thought it'd be useful for later, so I marked it down on my minimap. I found another one of these mansions. It had been so good to me last time I knew I had to loot it. In one of the back rooms, they have an archery section where they literally have stacks on stacks of arrows, so I went and grabbed those first. The chests inside this place can be hit or miss, but there's always one good chest in the main bedroom upstairs, and it had a mending book and a bunch of feather falling maxed out books. It was absolutely insane. The last one had 2 mending books, and this one had 1 mending book. This game was just handing itself to me. I just wanted to show this clip that ends off day 11. You know, in a world of horror where everything wants to kill you, sometimes there are just beautiful nights like these with the northern lights out. It's just nice to see in a game that has everything that wants to shoot you and murder you all the time. Day 12. I began the day with just doing some more looting. I started off with this little ship and then I moved to some battle towers. I ended off the day just kind of sitting there for like 10 minutes. Not exactly sure why in a hardcore world I left myself up in the air with all these things that can shoot me, but nothing killed me, so we were good. Day 13. So here's the thing. I usually do RLCraft by just killing mobs and looting battle towers, but I decided to change it up a little bit. I looked up some XP grinders, and I gave it my best to try and make an XP grinder, hoping that the XP would be a little bit faster this way, and I could level up my skills like that. They also give you a great deal of heart shards, so I began making my first XP grinder. Day 14. So, in all of my brilliance, I finished the XP grinder. The Zaffin themabobbers, they weren't spawning low enough, so I thought it was a great idea to create some more space for them, which would have been a great idea had I not done it when they were already there and they started inhabiting my entire house and I had to take care of the problem. Day 15. After cleaning up the problem and destroying the lava and having to go get new lava, I reset the farm and built it properly. However, I couldn't hit the Zaffins, and even when I could, the experience points were just dying in the lava. I tried some mini fixes, but nothing was really working. So I spent day 15 mainly just tearing the farm down. Day 16. After tearing down the first iteration of my farm, I thought it was a better idea to build it underground, because if I was able to get something to work, I knew a bunch of these mobs would spawn if I kept killing the Zaffins, so I thought underground was my best play, so I spent the next day mining. Day 17. I began a new iteration of the Zaffin farm going with a different design. If you're wondering why there are black lines on either side, it's because I had it in windowed mode so I could watch the YouTube tutorial video. I'll link that below, but yeah, let's just watch and see what happens to this farm. I built a little bit of the farm, and then I realized my room was not big enough, so I destroyed the farm that I had, and I began expanding the room even more. Day 18. I wish this was the day I could tell you that I started raking in the XP from my amazing Zaffin farm that I created with my 1000 IQ. However, the farm didn't work again. I swear, I did his design pinpointed. Not even one spawned. I made the farm like 3 times, and I just could not figure it out for the life of me. I went into a different world, tried creative moding it, tried troubleshooting it, couldn't figure it out. So, I gave up. As an ultimate slap in the face, I spent the rest of day 18 looking for a structure to loot, and I didn't find one. The game had literally just flipped the tables on me. Day 19. I wasn't exactly sure what my next step was. I didn't know if I wanted golem armor or if I wanted to go for the ender dragon this early. I still didn't have enough hearts, so I needed to sort of backtrack a little bit and stay a little bit more composed and go for one of those towers so I could start gaining hearts. But I spent most of day 19 just looting different things, getting more prepared to take on one of those towers. Day 20 to 25. Now, before you yell at me for grouping days together, here's the problem. I went to the Nether on these days. I was in search of some gas tiers to make some regen rings. Regen rings are just awesome to have when you're going looting, especially this early in the game. And I was convinced in my head that there were these structures that spawned inside of the Nether that had gas spawners in them. The problem was, well, they don't actually exist in RLCraft. You see, I was playing a mod pack called RLCraft Remastered the other day, and they had them in that mod pack, so I was looking all over for literally an hour, and I didn't even think to clue in. And then midway through, when I couldn't find anything, I was thinking to myself, oh, it's not in this mod pack. So I flew back, and then I literally wasted 5 days of just searching for nothing. I found a couple ghasts, but literally nobody dropped ghast tiers. Day 26. It was finally time to take on the first big dungeon to start getting some heart shards. I arrived there at dusk, but I found this really cool floating village. I was really tempted to move into it, however I realized all those air things will spawn that keep shooting you and levitating you up, and that would just be really annoying, so as cool as it was, I knew I couldn't actually live there. Day 27. I began the day by starting off at the top of the tower. There's honestly no point in starting at the bottom considering the first 5 levels of the tower have no loot, and I definitely did not have enough health or weaponry to take on those levels, but the top of the tower has the best loot and has honestly guarded the least amount, so that's where I started. If you're going to take on one of these towers at any point in the game, the first thing you want to do is take out this first floor. All it has is vexes, there's no chests or anything, but if you don't take it out immediately, the vexes will continuously spawn, and they'll just bug you the entire time you're in the tower. But especially if you're on low hearts, the first thing you want to do is mine through here and take them out. If you are using a diamond pickaxe, which you'll need to mine the obsidian anyway, inside of your skills menu you can select obsidian breaker, and it'll mine obsidian super fast with the diamond pickaxe. This way you can get in and wreck those spawners before too many vexes spawn. Once I took care of the vexes, usually what I would do here is just drop down and fight everything, but because I was so low on hearts, I didn't have really anything and I shouldn't be in this battle tower, I did it in more of a sneaky way. I knew there were spawners on each of the 4 corners of the tower, so what I did was I mined around the perimeter and I took out the spawners first, and then I just sat on a ledge and I bowed what was left in there, and realistically from there it was just a cakewalk and I was able to grab all the loot. Day 28. I felt I needed some protection on my helmet and my chest plate after almost getting ripped apart in that first dungeon, and I know I wanted to take on some more, so I began creating an enchanting table. I had enough books to make almost to level 30, but not quite, so I ran to the nearby village and I grabbed some more bookshelves. I use a pretty simple strategy when it comes to enchanting in RLCraft. Generally, you have a crazy excess of diamonds from the battle towers, so what I do is I enchant different armor pieces to get different items that I want. For instance, in this case, I just wanted basic protection 4 for all of my gear, So what I did was I created a bunch of chest plates first. I enchanted them all until I found protection 4 to level 30, took the level 30 enchants, and then disenchanted them. To make a disenchanting table, you just needed some yellow flower dye, an enchantment table, and then some gold. They're pretty simple to make. You do need to level up your magic to level 20 to be able to use them, so that's a bit annoying. But I had a bunch of XP tomes and XP bottles left over, so that was pretty easy. I spent most of the day, or pretty much all of the day, just enchanting and getting my armor a little bit more ready, so I could take on some better dungeons. Day 29. After making a Power 5 Diamond Longbow and a Diamond Saber, I set out to find a roguelike dungeon. Roguelike dungeons are the layered ones that have different tiers that go from your basic all the way down to the Nether. The Nether tier is the only one with really good items in the chests, but all of them have a lot of mobs that spawn, which is great for early game XP. I made sure not to destroy any of the spider spawners, and I would advise if you're playing the game to do the same at this point, because spiders can drop what's called Bazor. Bazor is just a bauble that you can put into your bauble slots that prevent you from getting poisoned. This is great against poison spiders and things later in the game and witches that always throw poison at you. So definitely at this point of the game, try and take your time with the spiders. Try not to get poisoned, but try and take all the time that you can and get that amulet from them. Day 30. I was still in the roguelike dungeon, but I was slowly making my way down to the last floors. At this point, I was at the second last floor. There's about 30 to 40 spawners, I think, inside of one of these roguelikes, so waiting out all the spawners to expire definitely takes a while. The spawners do not spawn infinitely. After a certain point, they just break. They put this feature in so that you couldn't just AFK farm off of the spawners, that after a while they would just eventually break. But you always want to wait them out because then you get the most XP. You could just break the spawners, which I do sometimes when I'm impatient, but if you let the spawners go for the entire time, you will get more XP out of it. So I did that for most of the spawners just so I could get the most XP. Day 31. I finished up the roguelike dungeon on the last layer. I didn't get too many enchanted books that were that notable. I got some prot ones, I got some different items with sharpness 4, I got some heart shards, but nothing too crazy unfortunately, but it was definitely worth the XP. It helped me level up iron skin and some other elements inside of my skills. Day 32. I crafted the dust into some shards and made some more hearts with the shards just to add to my max health before I went out looting for the day. I went to the farm that was near my house and began destroying all the wheat just for a little bit more experience before I started out my day. Usually I'd be a little bit scared of this because when you destroy crops inside of RLCraft, you have a chance of spawning this monster that poisons you. However, when I was down in the roguelikes, I killed enough spiders that I was able to get actually a couple Bazors, but I only kept one as a bauble. Again, Bazor helps you stop, well, it permits you to not get poisoned at all, so even if this thing does spawn when I'm destroying it, it won't be able to poison me, and then I'll just be able to go on my day like normal. While I was out exploring, I found another roguelike. Rather than doing all of the floors again, I decided just to mine straight down to the Nether floor, which is the last one, and take out the mobs there and go for the main room. A big thing with roguelikes and really any other dungeon inside of RLCraft is water buckets. Water buckets are important for two reasons. The first reason is you can always drink from them, you don't need to carry water bottles with you. The second reason is pushing mobs away. The bow and the water bucket strategy is going to save your life inside of RLCraft, and as you can see here, it pushes the mobs away continuously and lets me bow them. Obviously, ranged mobs can still hit you, but a majority of these mobs have sharpness 4 axes, so using the water bucket to push them away is a great early game way when you can't take too many hits. I camped at the door where the main chest spawned inside of the Nether dungeon, and I just bowed everything down until it was all dead, collected the experience points. I didn't get too many good enchanted books out of this or really that many good items, but it was worth the opportunity, and the experience points wasn't that bad. Day 33. I spent the day killing 2 dragons. I wanted some more red scale so I can continue making leggings and boots, because currently mending was only on my chestplate and helmet. So my leggings and boots kept breaking, so I wanted more scales to match mine. And then I went off and killed the green dragon. With this dragon, I just wanted to steal its blood, and I stole some scales as well, just in case I wanted to make some armor out of it later. You know, this game always baffles me. I just killed an absolute fire-breathing monster that wrecks nearby mobs. And then this little water thing decides to shoot at me. I don't understand why they can't look at the fact that I just killed a massive beast. Instead they're like, no, pew, 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 I'm gonna get you. And it's like, guys, please stop. I finished off day 33 by adding mending to my new pants. I could add it to my saber, but I know I wanted a better saber, so I crafted a fire one, but I couldn't use it yet because I needed to be level 24 attack. But I crafted it anyway. I still had one more mending book, so I knew it was okay to put mending on my pants, but I didn't worry about my boots for now. The problem is if your pants and your boots break, Although it's not going to kill you, it means all the damage now directly goes to your chest and your helmet. So I thought it'd be a good idea to put the mending on the pants just to mitigate how much damage goes to those places. Day 34. I began the day by looting one of the towers that I had previously looted at the start. At the start of the game, we looted the top of these towers, but we never touched inside of them because they were too crazy. But now that we had enough armor and enough hearts, I felt like going in was okay. I'm going to show a time-lapse of how to run one of these dungeons, or at least run part of it. We haven't been doing too many time-lapses because last time you guys didn't like them, but I thought I'd throw in one or two here and there this video, just to show how these dungeons work.
Feel free, and I just wanna be me. Yeah, I just wanna go so crazy. I just wanna be a freak. Yeah, I just wanna rise to the top. Yeah, I just wanna go reach the peak. So I've been really well focused on success. Hey, y'all will see. Yeah, you will see that I will get it. Cause I'm really focused, man. I make it with the rap and I just follow my path. I just follow my passion. To me, this is what's precious. Yeah, in my soul, man, I can feel it. So every single verse, man, I just gotta go and kill it, man. I gotta be the kid. I could be the guy taking you wild. I could be the villain. As a kid, lately I'm painting my path on my way. Yeah, I got no time that I can waste, so I've been sitting in the space. Yeah, making rest every day, man. You know that I go insane. Yeah, I hit you with a bullet to the brain. Let us stop first, cause we going insane. You don't know what I'm gonna do. You don't know what is next. And I'm loving the fact, truly it's making me blessed. Cause I work on my team, no snakes in the grass. And we have been trusting the wind because of the work that we did in the past. Because of the work that we did in the past. When we went to hours, you barely got rest. So I get the realm and we didn't finesse. So I got the feelings that we might be next. Cause when we go in, we win in the match. When we go in, we win in the match. So that's how we do, cause we be the best. We be the best, best. Yeah, we be the best. Whoa. Yeah, we be the best, best. We be the best. Hey, yeah, we be the best, best. Hey, we be the best. Yo, you wanna come to my test? Whoa, you want to see we the best? Hey, you don't see that we're the best kid, so I suggest you never really come and test it. But otherwise, I will smack your face like Michael Jordan does with a ball in the basket. Oh damn kid, but you didn't expect it. You never really thought that this could just happen. But now when we come on and we pull out with the action, just people defeat those they don't get it like.
I ended off the day with maxing out my hearts from all the heart shards we got from that dungeon. Day 35. I began the day by making my new saber and putting Lifesteal 4 on it. Lifesteal 4 is an amazing enchant, especially when it comes to dungeoning, because sometimes you have like 30 or 40 mobs drop on you at the same time, and you need that lifesteal, otherwise you're going to get completely wrecked by them. I decided that the next move was to go to the Nether, so I made a wither ring so I wouldn't get withered by all the skeletons. They're a lot easier to find the dungeons in the Nether because that's really all there is dungeons. So I decided to go there. However, I realized that it wasn't the fact that I was being lit on fire or the fact that I was being withered that was the problem. It was just the fact that I was constantly thirsty. You can't place water in the Nether, which is a great issue. So I decided just to come back, and I wasted most of day 35 doing that. I decided the next move was going to be to kill the Ender Dragon. I really wanted some shulker boxes to make looting a bit more efficient, but to do that, I may as well kill the Ender Dragon while I was there. So I crafted a bunch of Eyes of Ender, and I went on my way. It wasn't too hard to find the ender portal once I finally found the stronghold, and then I just hopped into the portal and I faced the greatest enemy so far. I wish I could tell you that the fight was dramatic. I almost died 3 times and he tossed me off the edge, but in all honesty, I kind of wrecked him. I destroyed the crystals, just kind of sat on one of the obsidian pillars and shot at him. He didn't do very much to me. In fact, he only attacked me like twice, and I just kind of destroyed him. Took his experience, didn't even bother taking the egg, honestly, and just decided to go on my way, and then later I come back for some shulker boxes. Days 38 to 40. I spent most of the days just flying, looking for an end city somewhere. It took forever for anything to pop up. I kept running into these Lycanite dungeons, but I wasn't really ready to take one on yet, so I just kept bypassing them all. I didn't bring any fishing rods, so I couldn't take on any of the battle towers, so I was just waiting to find an end city so I could get some of those shulkers. I finally found an end city, and I grabbed about 8 shulker shells, and then I headed back home. I spent days 41 to 43 flying back home. Once I was home, I crafted my shulkers, and then I took a good night's rest before I got up for the day for some epic looting. I then spent days 44 and 45 just looting some end towers in the end. That got boring really fast though, and I decided it was time to take on a Lycanite dungeon. This way I could grab some soul stones and a lot of XP from these bad boys. Day 46. I popped into my first Lycanite dungeon and said hello to everybody and then quickly murdered them. I was able to take out the first boss inside of that day. I spent day 47 running around like a chicken with its head cut off, getting attacked by everything that held any sort of sharp object. It was quite a fun time. I did get a lot of experience points though, and I was able to take care of the second boss and get another soul stone. Day 48. Ha! Now the Zaffins spawn. I was debating on taking a bucket of that green goop to see if I could create another XP spawner, but you know what? I was done with that, and I was not trying to do that again. I ended up killing the final boss inside of the Lycanite dungeon, which gave me enough of the soul stones to actually spawn Asmodius. I was not ready to take him on yet, but at least I had the pieces to do it. Day 49. I brought my shulker boxes to another one of those dungeons and began slaying everything I could find. I was on the lookout for some wither skeleton skulls so I could make some withers. I really wanted some nether stars for an idea I had. Day 50. I spent that day wrapping up the tower, collecting the last resources, and fighting off the mobs outside, and then I headed back home with enough XP and some new enchanted books to work on some of my armor and tool sets. Day 51. I decided to take on another battle tower. We cleared out the first floor pretty easily, but it was realistically the next floors that were going to be the real challenge. Day 52. I spent most of the time on the first and second floors. When you're doing battle towers like this, it's a good idea to bring a lot of blocks with you. The reason being is if you fall down a couple of floors, all the mobs that have been spawning so far are going to be waiting for you, and you're going to get absolutely mauled. A lot of these mobs can actually pull you and throw you around from a distance, so it's smart just to block them up as you go, and then this way you don't end up falling a few floors and getting absolutely killed. Day 53. We continued to slowly make our way down. Although it was a little bit more tedious, it definitely is worth the experience points, as I was getting a lot of my skill sets leveled up. To fight Asmodius, you were going to need nearly maxed out skills in certain categories, so grinding a few of these towers is just necessary. On day 54, I said to hex with it all, and I jumped all the way down to the bottom floor. This is what happens when you can accidentally fall through the floors. Now, I intentionally did it because I knew I could handle it. If you decide to do this, just let me tell you one thing. You need lifesteal on your sword. If you do not have lifesteal and you attempt this, you will die. There is no ands, ifs, or buts. You will perish, and it will be quite sad. Day 55. I flew over to the other tower that I had already taken out the chest from the top layer on, but hadn't done anything to the bottom layers yet. I began sorting through my shulkers to put everything back, and then I decided to go down and begin the tower. I spent day 56 clearing out the next 2 layers. Day 57. I'm going to emphasize this one more time. Unless you are a trained professional, do not do this. I dropped down to the bottom floor and was absolutely mauled by every single living creature and dead creature at the exact same time. It's great for XP, but again, trained professional, don't try this at home. Day 58. I wanted to start working towards my Asmodius build, so I needed some nether stars to do that for an idea that I had. But to do that, I needed to go kill some wither skeletons so I could spawn some withers so I could get said nether stars. Day 59. After an awful experience trying to get wither skeleton skulls, I decided it was a better idea to get them from roguelikes instead. Roguelikes have a certain room that spawn, and they have a lot of different skulls inside them, including wither skeleton skulls, and honestly I felt like that would be a faster way than doing it, so I set off trying to find a roguelike. While I was there, I decided to just take out the nether floor because why not? Free XP. Day 60. After getting rid of the nether room, I went back up to the other floor to actually find the Wither Skeleton Skulls. They don't actually spawn on the bottom floor, they spawn on the 3rd floor. There's usually about 2 rooms per roguelike, so I made my way to one of the rooms and grabbed all the skulls from inside of it, and grabbed some XP along the way. Day 61. I deliberated on where to fight the Wither. I went to the Nether to get some more soul sand. I looked up some videos on how to break bedrock in 1.12, but ultimately I wasted most of the day just trying to research that, and I knew I could get through the bedrock, but I didn't know if I could get back down from the bedrock. I didn't want to risk it, so I decided to just forego that and then push it to the next day. Day 62. I was ready for an absolute fight. I had god apples on me, I had my sword, I had my totems. I was ready to go to war. I spawned my first Wither, and well, I absolutely destroyed it. I spawned my second Wither. That one was pretty easy too. But the third Wither was a Blight. That one I kind of felt uneasy about, but at the end of the day, the lifesteal really sold it for me, and there's nothing he could have really done. It kind of sucks that I only got 47 levels out of killing 3 Withers, but I got my Nether stars, and that's what I really wanted. Days 63 to 70. Now, hear me out. Before you yell at me, I did another one of the Zaffin kind of things. So, here was my idea. To fight Asmodius, I wanted to be as powerful as I could. But as a solo player, there's only certain limits you can go to. There's only a certain amount of baubles you can carry. So I had the idea that if I spawned a bunch of beacons within a radius that where I was going to fight Asmodius, I could have resistance, speed, more regen, and I could really max out to every potential what baubles I was holding. And then the rest of it, I could have strength, all that stuff. That was the idea. However, it kept falling through. So, first issue that happened was I didn't have enough valuable blocks. So I went out and I kept trying to find more and more and more. Then the second issue that happened was I realized, oh wait, you can't use the beacons in the Nether, and I spent a little while researching it, and then I realized you can, but they need to be able to see to bedrock, so I had to place them within being able to see to bedrock. But then I started thinking, if I place it down and then I spawn the Asmodius altar, then that's not going to work either because Asmodius altar is going to destroy it, so I have to place it after the altar is placed. But then I looked into it even more, and then I found out you can't place blocks within a certain radius of the Asmodius. Long story short, I spent the next literally a couple hours trying to figure out if this beacon idea would work, and ultimately it didn't. So I spent all that time preparing for that Wither and that beacon for no reason, but you know what? It was fun, and I learned a lot in the process. Day 71. I thought I'd take a little break from my headstrong will of just go, go, go at Asmodius, and I decided to fight this sea/land dragon. I really wanted the sea serpent armor. I never really used it inside of RLCraft because I didn't really find a point to it because I barely ever water PvP'd, but I thought it'd be a cool set to get, so I grabbed it and I tried some few tests in the water, but it's not that great. I mean, if you're wearing a set of 4, it'll give you strength 4 in the water, so if you're fighting things in the water, it's great. It's just I'm very rarely fighting things in the water, and Asmodius is a nether mob, so I can't use it there. So I decided to just stick with my dragon armor. Day 72. I thought I'd mess around and have some fun, so I took my sea serpent armor out for a ride. I also gathered some loot while I was there getting ready for Asmodius. These underwater dungeons are a great way to get god apples. There seems to be a lot in these chests. I got 3 just from this dungeon, and god apples are essential when you're fighting Asmodius. Days 73 to 75. These days were pretty grindy. It was mainly just me preparing for Asmodius, sorting through my chests, making sure I had all the god apples, totems. I did a bit of research on Asmodius because I was still trying to figure out the beacon idea at this point. Even though obviously I know in retrospect it didn't work, I was still trying to figure out where I could put it or different elements I could add to make Asmodius a little bit tougher. I was trying to figure out how many soul stones I could bring with me. It turns out you can only bring 1. Quite a travesty, which you'll see. But it was mainly just a day of research, getting everything ready for the actual fight. Day 76. I was finally ready to fight Asmodius in the Nether, so I ran over to my portal and jumped right in. Thankfully, and ironically enough, something lit me on fire, and I started taking damage. And you might say, well, why are you thankful for that? Because it made me realize that I did not have my Dragon Eye anymore, and I would have been absolutely pummeled by everything. So, I went back home, got my right baubles on, get everything ready, and then came back. It's ironic, because I spent 2 days preparing for this, and I missed the baubles still, but you know what? You live and you learn. Day 77. I don't understand this. I never will understand this. But while I was preparing to build the altar for the most powerful boss in the game, these guys kept attacking me. And you know, I just don't understand why these tiny things shoot these fireballs at me when I'm about to spawn something literally the size of the entire, 60 by 60 radius of, the blocks we're standing in and fight him. It's like, guys, just leave me alone. Let me deal with the real problems here. You guys just go over there. Ugh. God. 8 to 80. It took me a couple days to finish up this guy. I was playing very, very cautiously. A couple of tips, if I can offer them, would be definitely use a bow. Don't melee until the end. The way this boss fight works is there's 3 phases to him. The first phase, you can bow him all you want. As soon as he hits phase 2, he's going to develop a shield to where he's going to be impenetrable. To disable the shield, he's going to spawn these guys around the actual arena. The problem is he doesn't always spawn them inside of the arena. So I had to go out and try and find some of them. Some of them spawn inside of the walls. Killed those guys. Again, it happens in phase 3 where he'll spawn these guys again. You have to kill them before you can start attacking him. But it was pretty easy from that point on. We just kept dodging and weaving. Don't stand in one place. I made the mistake when I first started playing this game. When I first fight with him, I basically just stood there and shot at him the entire time, which was fine until he decided to one-shot me. And this is when Dragon Forge armor was still allowed in the game, and it was in, like, I think I had strength and protection. Like, I was completely jacked, and he just one-shot me. Do not go into this fight cocky. No matter what armor you have on, he can decimate you if he gets a direct hit on you with some of those beams. So I tried to play it really safe. I skirted around. I ate a couple god apples. But all in all, we took care of business. He dropped 7 nether stars, which is absolutely insane, and that's going to help with our next project. Day 81. I arrived back home and I crafted some waypoints right away with the nether stars so I could easily get between the nether, the end, and the home dimension. Recall potions are great, but they don't work cross-dimensional, so waypoints are just a nice, easy way to do that. After that, I decided to go mining. I, of course, mined straight down as per my chat. If you guys want to watch me stream, feel free to head over to my channel and pay attention to when I stream, because my chat told me to dig straight down. You know what? I thought it was a pog idea. And then I just honestly mined for the day. I hadn't really been mining in RLCraft. I was kind of curious what it was like. It was pointless. Day 82. I decided to go back to the end and do some more Lycanite dungeons, while also getting some more soul stones so I can spawn the final boss inside of the game. Day 83, I found the first Lycanite dungeon and I plunged right into it. To fight Rahovart, I know I needed to upgrade my skills a little bit more and also grab some more soul stones, so I figured if I did 1 or 2 Lycanite dungeons between the soul stones and the XP I got, I'd be prepared to fight him. I spent the remainders of day 83 and 84 clearing out the dungeon and getting every bit of XP I could, while also taking care of all the bosses and getting all of the soul stones. On day 85, after completing the dungeon, I went searching for a new one and I found this absolutely massive dungeon with more bosses in it than I had ever seen, and I knew I had to take it on. On day 87 and 88, it was finally time to spawn Rahovart. He is supposed to be the hardest boss in the game, even harder than Asmodius. I think he's nerfed inside of RLCraft, and Asmodius is actually harder than him. Both of them were increased, like in terms of their stats in RLCraft, to make them more difficult, but I believe Asmodius was buffed more than Rahovart. I don't know if it was by mistake or on purpose, but Rahovart is definitely no easy foe to contend with either. Here's a montage of the battle. I had to run back to the house in the middle of it, but we came back and it was all good. He was still there, thankfully. On day 89, I placed down the waystone, grabbed all of the loot, and made a few trips back and forth, grabbing what I wanted, and set up some more waystones with the nether stars that I had gathered. Days 90 to 97. So here's the thing. There's really not anything left to do in the mod pack aside of tame a dragon. However, I hadn't found any dragon lairs yet. To tame a dragon inside of the game, you need to find an underground lair. They're incredibly rare. Sometimes they pop out above the ground, but I hadn't seen any in all of my... I was going to fly around the last 10 days and just look, but not really find one. But on day 97, not only did we find one, but we saw an ice one. Whenever there's chunks loading in, there's a bit of a glitch where you can kind of see underground, and I noticed it and instantly went for it. I've never found a snow one before. On day 98, I placed him in some water. He instantly made some ice around himself, and then I waited. And I waited. And I waited. And then finally he spawned. You dead? How do I forget how to use this. Try gonna sting rather than sting. How do I put you on my shoulder? He's on my shoulder. You're not as fascinated with this as I am. Look how cute he is! Ah! Did you shoot fire? Shoot fire at something. Attack! Attack, I say. I didn't do very good at attacking. Let's say your attacking skills are subpar, dear. I spent day 99 looting the nearby villages for some dragon meal. I really wanted to age up my dragon quickly. Dragon meal basically works like bone meal on plants, but only for dragons instead, but you need a lot of raw meat, and I didn't really have any, but thankfully villagers had a lot, so I kept going looting to get them. Day 100. I spent some of day 100 still looting for the meat, but I made it back for the sunset as per tradition with the 100 Days series. You know, I spent the last 23 hours finishing up this video and editing it, and obviously altogether the video took about 50 or 60 hours to make. If you've made it this far, and please hit that like button, subscribe, comment something you enjoyed about the video. I appreciate you guys so much. I thank you so much for all the support recently. It's just been absolutely nuts. I never saw it coming. I just thought I'd post one of the videos and see what happened. But yeah, I just want to say thank you guys so much. If you enjoyed the series, hit that like button if you want 200 days. We did die in our last 200 days. That's why we didn't do 200 days, and we had to redo it. But yeah, I think that's about it, guys. With that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.